Hello and welcome to Left, Right, Center. I'm Sean Boyd. Well, the party is over and the race is on. Vice President Kamala Harris closed out the Democratic National Convention Thursday with a speech aimed less at the raucous crowd in the arena and more at the undecided voters at home. Framing her campaign as optimistic, pragmatic, and forward-looking, she drew sharp contrasts with Donald Trump, weaved in references to patriotism, and highlighted her middle-class upbringing by a single mom.
The path that led me here in recent weeks was no doubt unexpected. But I'm no stranger to unlikely journeys.
Democratic presidential nominee Kamala Harris says her mom, who traveled here from India to start a new life, helped shape who she is, raising her and her sister alone after divorcing her dad.
She taught us to never complain about injustice, but do something about it. My mother had another lesson she used to teach. Never let anyone tell you who you are. You show them who you are.
Harris says she is someone who fights for the people. As district attorney and attorney general, she says she fought for people victimized by predators, scammers, and cartels. As president, she says she'll fight for people who can't afford health care, housing, and groceries.
From the courthouse to the White House, that has been my life's work.
And she says the fight has never been more important. The election, she says, is a fight for the future of America. Donald Trump, she says, will take the country back.
We are not going back to when he tried to get rid of the Affordable Care Act. We are not going to let him eliminate the Department of Education that funds our public schools. We are charting a new way forward. Instead of a Trump tax hike, we will pass a middle-class tax cut that will benefit more than 100 million Americans. We will end America's housing shortage and protect Social Security and Medicare. We can create an earned pathway to citizenship and secure our border. In the enduring struggle between democracy and tyranny, I know where I stand and I know where the United States belongs.
Joining me are analysts, Republican Dick Wadhams and Democrat Mike Dino. Fresh off the plane from Chicago.
I don't know how fresh I am.
I know. Are you awake?
Yeah, you might have to nudge me.
I told you, I talked to Rick Palacio, former chair of the Colorado Democratic Party, about this convention, and he likened the energy there to the 2008 DNC here, which, of course, Mike headed up. It is the gold standard of conventions,
yes,
I think,
it is.
right?
It is.
This is a convention that saw progressives and moderates get behind Kamala Harris. You saw the AOC and the Bernie Sanders, along with the Pelosi's and the Hillary Clintons. But there are plenty of examples of candidates who had great conventions and then went on to lose. So how is it that Democrats capitalize on this momentum going into November?
Well, Sean, I'm sure you wanted to mention the Bidens, too.
Right.
And that's really the reason. At first there was relief that the president decided, hey, I'm going to forego re-election. And then a lot of joy, as Oprah Winfrey said, that, we have a candidate that we can all get excited about. Yeah. And I think that was a change. I mean, we were pretty forlorn up until 4 weeks ago. And the president stepped aside. He had his night, Monday night. And I think the fact that it came together so quickly, coalesced around Kamala Harris. I mean, she raised 70% of her money is raised from donors who haven't given to Biden. And she raised more money in 10 days than he raised in 15 months.
Yeah, this whole election has been so compressed now. Dick, in addition to these various factions of the Democratic Party, the DNC featured several Republican speakers, including former Congressman Adam Kinzinger, who, he urged Americans to put their country first, to vote for Harris, saying she shares his allegiance to the rule of law, the Constitution, and democracy. How effective do you think his speech was?
Frankly, not very effective, Sean. I mean, any Republican who's going to vote for Harris has already decided to do that, with or without Kinzinger showing up at that. And I admire him for doing that. But the fact is that slice of Republicans that are never Trumpers, that are not going to vote for Trump or are going to vote for Harris, it's there. It's been there for a long time. Did he impact that narrow slice of the electorate that are truly undecided? I don't know. I mean, there's a lot to go in this campaign, and the challenge for her, she's at some point she's going to have to come out from behind a teleprompter and do like some national media interviews and really explain how she went from being on the far left to now diving to the middle. And frankly, that's what got Dukakis in trouble in 1988. Is that Bush ended up holding him accountable for his liberal positions. And if Trump has some element of self-discipline, maybe he could do that with her, but I don't know.
Maybe. So Mike, Harris has backtracked from some of her more progressive positions, a ban on fracking, single-payer health care, and instead her speech really honed in on affordable housing, lower taxes for the middle class, protecting reproductive health care. How does she convince those undecided voters she's going to stick to that more mainstream agenda and be that president for everyone, as she talked about in her speech?
Well, I think a lot of what I've been looking at is I think people are going to make more of a judgment on who they like better. And I think that, the Democrats really focused on freedom was a big issue, freedom along a lot of different lines. Joy, obviously, we talked about going forward, not going backward. And I actually think, I'm not so sure I agree with Dick that she needs to define anything more than she has. It's a short campaign. I think she needs to stay likable, and Trump is doing all he can not to be likable, and he doesn't appear to want to change, because he said that this week. He says, they're calling me names, I'm going to keep calling them names.
It is true. Likability plays a maybe outsized role in elections. Dick, Harris's running mate, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz's speech was a clear appeal to those voters in those Midwest swing states. He focused on his experience as a teacher, a coach. A VP's job is typically do no harm.
No doubt.
Did he help?
Yes. Well, I think he helped her that he did no harm. And the trouble with J.D. Vance is that immediately after he got appointed, we found out we found out about the cat lady comment, which didn't. But since then, he did 4 Sunday news program interviews last Sunday, Sean, and he was really good. And he got a lot of rave reviews. So I think J.D. Vance has gotten his legs back underneath him for this campaign. But yeah, Walz, he's good for the Midwest. But once again, this is a choice between Donald Trump and Kamala Harris. And I got to tell you, I think she is going to have to come out and really explain where she is on the issues. There's no doubt that she's more likable than him. Everybody's more likable than Donald Trump. But presidential campaigns do have... people do want to know, and polling shows that people do agree that Trump would do better on the economy and immigration and the fundamental and inflation.
I'm going to get to that.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Walz has, you talked about how J.D. Vance, some things have came out about him after his speech and for accepting the nomination. Things have come out about Walz, too.
Yes.
Mischaracterizing his military record, talking about his wife going through IVF when that wasn't the fertility treatment that she did receive.
Yes.
So he, too, has had some issues, too. But I do think his speech did appeal, did what it was supposed to do.
It was a good speech. And I thought one of the golden moments of the convention was when his son stood up.
Yeah.
I mean, that was really
hard.
That
was really great.
Yeah.
That was really great.
Well, I'm going to hold Dick to this, though. He has told me, up until Biden getting out, if we got rid of Biden, we're going to win the election. And we did that, Dick, so you got to deliver now.
I don't see Dick going as far as Kinzinger, right, urging people to vote for Harris, but I don't know. So we heard from several Coloradans at the convention as well. Governor Polis, Assistant Minority Leader Joe Neguse, and Representative Jason Crow all had speaking slots. So, Mike, do you see any of them in maybe a Harris cabinet, should she win?
Well, listen, one of the things that was kind of out there, and you saw on social media, is that Senator Michael Bennet could be the chief of staff to President Harris. They have a very good relationship. I watched him yesterday, last night at the convention. He was very, engaged, paying attention to everything going on. He was very active, getting around to delegations. He hosted an event for the Colorado group. So I'll look for him to maybe have a role, definitely.
Interesting he didn't speak at the convention, did he?
No, I mean, he didn't, and I could see why. I mean, Joe Neguse, certainly in his leadership position.
Minority leader.
And, of course, Congressman Crow, what credentials? An Army Ranger, and, was on the stage twice last night. I mean, one to speak and then part of the group of Congress people, Dems from the military.
It is interesting how much they profiled veterans in this convention. Another sort of patriotic theme to this. So, Dick, back to the economy and immigration.
Right.
You're right. The CBS polls show, too, that Trump continues to lead on these two issues in particular. But Harris didn't shy away from either subject in her speech, especially immigration. She talked about, I'm going to pass that bill that Donald Trump killed, and I'm going to secure the border, and I'm going to give a path to citizenship for those people who are here. How do you see this playing in the race? How important will the immigration issue be?
Well, as you know, I am no big fan of Donald Trump. But I'll tell you what, that news conference he had yesterday on the border, where he brought in those folks who their kids were killed by illegal immigrants, I will tell you that was very compelling. And this, he asked a very important question. Kamala Harris, you say you want to do all these things. Where were you the last 3.5 years? You were Vice President of the United States. And all the problems you say you're going to handle now, you were in a position to do that when you were Vice President under Biden. If he keeps sharpening that message, he's going to flush her out, and she's going to have a hard time answering that. And by the way, Sean, I just want to say right here, if Michael Bennet resigns the Senate, I support Mike Dino to be the appointed U.S. Senator.
We won't go down that path. We'll get our first woman senator if that happens, definitely.
So, Mike, another subject that I think Harris has been vulnerable on is the war in Gaza. And you had thousands of pro-Palestinian demonstrators marching outside the arena as the event took place. Harris addressed them in her speech saying, I'm going to always have Israel's back. But she also lamented, all of the innocent civilians who've been killed. And she said the president and her are going to make sure that Palestinians have dignity, freedom, self-determination. Do you think her remarks help diffuse this maybe a little bit for her, this issue?
I'm not sure. I mean, I think it's a tough issue, and I think all the nights run in, but there's a family whose child's still a hostage, and I think it was good to acknowledge it, but tensions are still high about that. There were some protesters on Monday night in the arena that were quieted down about this issue. College campuses are opening up again for school. We'll see if that has an effect. It's a hard one to go away. The nice thing is there's kind of a separation. There's the Biden administration, Anthony Blinken, our Secretary of State, that really are probably trying to do something about it, and she's kind of saying, I'm going to run and we're going to do something about it. And I think there's a little bit of a space, in giving her breathing room to maybe avoid more conflict for the campaign.
She is getting a lot of breathing room on many fronts, right?
Yes.
I mean, not just this war in Gaza, but I mean, again, you see these far left, progressive members of the party who say, I know that she's kind of pulled back from things that we see important, but the goal here is beat Donald Trump, and we'll work out the details later. That's what it seems to be the strategy.
Well, and it all goes back to what we talked about earlier. There's just a relief that the president isn't running. I think another pivotal point will be the debate on September 10th that, you know, could really give her the wind in her sails to take her all the way to November 5th.
All right. So just hours after the DNC ended, independent candidate Robert Kennedy Jr. announced he was suspending his candidacy and endorsing Donald Trump, shaking up a presidential race that is already hard to follow. So, Dick, the Democratic National Committee says basically big deal, endorsement changes, nothing. You agree?
No.
And who do you see benefiting from this endorsement? Does Trump benefit?
I think Trump does benefit. And as we've talked many times, Sean, this is a game of inches in this campaign. And you look at the numbers right now in the polling. And so I think marginally it helps Trump. I wouldn't overstate it. But remember how narrow the margins were in Pennsylvania and Wisconsin. And I just think it probably is going to help Trump. But will it be a determinant factor? No, I don't think so. But
not even in these swing states where you say, you know, it's a game of inches.
If he wins by that much, you could point to Kennedy and a bunch of other things. So you just never know.
Right.
But I'd rather have it than not. And by the way, I think the Democrats really mishandled RFK. They should have let him engage in the primaries. I don't know why they rebuffed him like they did. His name is still Kennedy, and that's magic in Democratic politics. And I think if he ends up being a big factor in this race, the Democrats can look at themselves for the blame.
Yeah, Mike, it's interesting. Kennedy did have fair amount of support. I think he got 4% in Pennsylvania. But polls now show him at, I think CBS most recent poll was 2%. So, you know, pretty small. But again, game of inches. So do you see him helping?
No,
Trump
he just adds to the weird factor. You know, he does. I mean, he really got, you know, a lot of stuff started coming out. You know, the bear cub thing and a few other things of recent. Before Harris got in and the president decided not to run, he was in some places around the country, double-digit, 10%. That was cut in half when she got in. And I think this, Dick and I know this in running campaigns, Labor Day is a defining point.
It is.
And I think if he endorses now, I mean, after Labor Day, nobody's going to remember he was ever in the race or that he ever endorsed. So, you know, I'm a Democrat. I like to think it would amount to not much. I do agree that, you know, there's some margin there, but I don't think it'll get him everything that he's hoping it will.
Okay. Ahead, a preview of the special session of the state legislature that starts Monday. Would drop from 6.7% to at least 6.4%, and the commercial rate would be 25% for all businesses. So, you know, Mike, I'm hearing from both sides, surprise, surprise, that there could be some drama during this special session. Some progressives and Democrats who lost their primaries are apparently now plotting to remove Speaker Julie McCluskey. How do you see this playing out?
Well, at first, the speakers always had some tension from the left flank. Yeah, the far left flank. And so that's not too surprising. I mean, it does, you know, create irritation. How do I see it playing out? I think a lot of the consternation right now is what it is this week. They'll get down there. It's like, you know, what are we doing here? And it's the last week of summer, really, before Labor Day. Let's get it done and get out of here. The governor doesn't want to mess around either. I mean, you know, he's the one who's put it out there and called it, because that's what you have to do by the Constitution. So I think they'll get it done. They got everybody on board they need to. Yeah, there's irritation that they thought they had already solved it. And again, this is just kind of moving it incrementally, too. So it isn't like they're making anything huge in terms of significant changes, but it keeps the ballot measures off that could be really problematic.
The call is call being what the governor designed this special session for. It's pretty narrow, just property taxes. So we're not going to see other bills coming up, too. So, Dick, fire districts, they're already condemning this compromise, saying it's going to cost them hundreds of millions of dollars. And local governments haven't endorsed it yet either. And, you know, Mike, you've talked about, you know, this is not going to be great for them either when you're capping how much property taxes they can take in each year. Although, as the proponents have said, do you really need 40% increase? You know, this is capped at, what did I say, 5.25 for local governments. Do you see this passing in its current form? I mean, people are very sympathetic to fire districts.
Well, it better pass in its current form, or I think Advanced Colorado and Colorado Concerned will go forward with their ballot measures. I think this thing could crater next week, Sean. I really do. Those Democrats who lost those primaries, what do they have to lose? And they're angry. I mean, because the Democratic Party kind of ganged up on them to beat them in those primaries, and they've never liked the speaker. I could see them raising enough heck that they could derail this thing. And so I'm a little bit more pessimistic than Mike in terms of the chances of this thing getting passed.
I'm just hoping it doesn't go beyond 3 days.
Well, I don't think it can.
No, because the governor's called it for 3 days.
I'm not sure.
So it'll be a long 3 days at the Capitol.
Did he, in the call, did it really say 3 days?
Yeah.
Did it? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the 26th, 27th, and 28th.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
All
I
right.
didn't know that.
It's going to be
Well, if it's more than 3
again,
days, well,
it's going to be a long 3 days for me, for sure, and those at the Capitol. Well, that's it for this week. Thanks for watching Left, Right, Center. We'll see you next time.